Orlando. It's your boy, the attorney, Sean Smith, here with my brother from another mother.
What up, what up? Dan Smith here. How you doing out there? Facebook land. How's everybody?
Welcome to WOKB 1680, your urban empowerment and inspiration station, here at your 12 o'clock hour with Community Matters. Because the community, what, Dan? It
matters.
It matters to me.
It matters. It matters to
Does
all
it matter to you?
Yes, yep. Here we are.
It should matter to all of us.
Right.
Just want to remind you that this program is sponsored and brought to you by the law offices of Sean R.H. Smith, P.A., dealing and handling all of your wills, trust, probate, guardianship matters. If you have any questions or concerns, give us a call at 321-295-7801, 321-295-7801, where we let you know that a will
is not a way
to avoid probate,
but to educate.
We got to educate you
to avoid,
so you can avoid
probate. Now, what does that mean? We're going to do the weekend review. There's a lot been going on. We just, a lot to unpack. But we want to talk about what does that mean about educate and probate and all that. You hear these terms thrown around all the time. And there was something that happened this week that was a reminder to us that we need to have things in order and plan way ahead of time.
This week or last week?
It happened this week in review.
Okay, what happened this week? Remember, this week started Sunday.
Right.
So what happened this week for us to...
Well, there was a death.
It happened this week.
Okay.
Did it happen this week?
Well, do you want to spend time talking about that of specifics, or you want to talk about the event?
All right, see, that's how Dan and I do. We go back and forth. Dan is saying something happened this week, and I'm saying, Dan, it didn't happen this week. It happened last week. Well, what is it that happened? Well, the Queen died. The Queen passed away. The Queen, all hail the Queen. She passed away last week. It was last week.
Last week.
She did.
She was 96 years old.
He's 96 years old. And being a citizen and born in one of the Commonwealth countries of the UK, United Kingdom, that country or that island being Bermuda, under the Queen, it was very relevant to me in my life.
Yeah, you should have wore that shirt today. The shirt you had that was dedicating the flag with the Union Jack in the corner.
Yeah, Daniel and I were on a show on Saturday.
Quad Squad.
And during that show, in memory of the Queen,
comes on every Saturday. Quad Squad
at 9:00
on YouTube. Just YouTube it, the Quad Squad channel.
I was wearing a shirt with a big Bermuda flag on it.
Yeah, beautiful Bermuda
flag. Yes.
Sounds like you said. Beautiful flag.
Beautiful Bermudian flag.
Okay, but it's Bermuda flag.
Yes. in recognition, in commemoration, in solidarity, in honor of the Queen who had passed away.
And it was sad. A lot of, there's two things that we're going to unpack on that. There's two things we're going to unpack.
What are those two things, Dan?
First thing is that it was sad to a lot of people. And interesting that she had planned her funeral like years, almost decades before it actually happened. So she planned the succession, although it was tradition, who was next in the line to become the sovereign, which is King Charles now. But she had planned and mapped out everything, meaning like the funeral, the arrangements and everything. And she had planned things way earlier,
years in advance.
So when we talked about a will is not a way to avoid probate. She had and everybody may not have the estates like the Queen had.
Yeah, that's what people are saying. Like, you can't compare me to the Queen.
Right.
I ain't got that type of money, Mr. Daniel Smith. So how you gonna tell me I should do what the Queen does when I ain't got the money like the Queen? When I have money like the Queen, then I have plans like the Queen.
Well, that's why we have you on the show.
Me?
Yes, because you as a specialist in estate planning will let people know that you don't have to have
that type of money,
that bank as the Queen. to plan an estate, but you need to
have a plan.
Exactly. Without a plan,
the people perish.
Yes. So why is it important to have a plan?
Or as Benjamin Franklin used to say, if you fail to plan to fail.
So what is the relevance, since we're talking about it, what is the relevance in having an estate plan?
The relevance of having an estate plan is that you know exactly what's going to happen, how are your finances, how are your assets going to be, not just directed when you pass, but what happens when you're really sick. You know, what plans do you have in place just in case you're extremely sick and can't do things on your own, or don't, you know, are people going to know your decisions, your wishes, your wants, you know, when you're in the hospital and you can't make those choices for yourself? Or is there something that's going to have to go through litigation where a court's going to have to decide, or court's going to have to get involved in determining who's going to be taking care of your bank accounts or your homes or your assets?
Okay, when I just heard you throw around litigation. What is litigation?
Litigation means when people argue in court.
Okay.
You go to court and you got one side arguing this, and you go to court and get another side arguing that. It's just basically going to court arguing.
So it's like, so you're telling me that family members may go to the courts.
They will.
Arguing.
Say,
my mom loved me more than she loved you.
Or she didn't say that.
And that's why I get this part of the house. Or I get these items.
Right.
And then brother man comes along and said, no, Mama loved me more. Because she told me that this ring is mine.
Right.
And then they litigate. As you say, they argue. You know, they argue in court. So then the judge gets to say, wait. I will see.
He will decide.
But first, I guess he'll say, is there an estate?
Yeah.
And then they'll say, well, they'll scratch their head. No, but Mom got a will. She wrote out the will.
But the first question not going to be, does she have an estate?
Because they say, does she have a will? I don't know.
That will be the first question. Did Mom have a will? So when the court gets involved, that's one of the first things we tell them, whether or not there was a will or there was not a will involved.
And we don't want the court to get involved.
But some people may want the courts to get involved. You know who gets paid when the courts get involved?
Who gets paid?
The lawyers get paid.
Okay.
When the courts get involved.
So it's like, so somebody says, well, I got a will, so I ain't got to worry about that.
They always say that. I was talking to somebody last week, and they couldn't get over the concept of, if I have a will, that's all I need.
Well, you know, because we watch so much TV and all these mystery shows about somebody getting killed. The butler did it, and then they're all in this big old house.
Yes.
And they said, well, we're going to read the will.
They're going to read the will. That's exactly and that's exactly what she said. When I watched the TV show, it was on the show. They all came into the big mansion, and the lawyer, somebody, he read the will.
Right. So it's like, it's all good, you know. But that's not how life really is.
That's not how it works. If all you have is a will, right?
And if you want to have a TV show to go,
it's gonna, a lot of times it's gonna go through court, and the court will process what's in the will.
Okay.
And then, you know, based upon the will says, the court will then sign an order that mirrors what's in the will.
So it sounds like that's a quick process. It sounds like that only gonna take about no more than a week.
Oh, you know,
no more than a week, right?
Justice delayed is not justice denied, right?
So how long you think?
Oh
like
my
that?
goodness,
that's only a week, right?
Oh, a week in biblical years, right? A week in the biblical terminology, like Revelation, in the middle of the week, right? The Bible says a day is 1,000 years. It's not going to be 1,000.
We hope it.
No, but it could take years. A day is
really
in let's use this in court language. A day is a year.
Wow.
It could take, 6 months to a year, if not longer, depending on how big the estate is and how people may or may not want to argue.
You know, some people, they're planning to use Mom and them's money from the sale of that house and what they had in the bank that Mama just left them in the will.
They gotta wait.
What? But why they gotta wait? I got all these bills and I got this trip and stuff.
They that wait on the court. I don't know if they're going to renew their strength. They may not renew their strength, but that's often what happens. We see that
on the serious side.
On every day they come in and say, you know, Mama and Daddy had a will that I'm supposed to get the house. I said, okay, that's beautiful. But did she have a trust? No, she didn't have a trust. Did she have a special deed to transfer the home to you when she died? No, I don't even know what that is.
You mean you got to have a Mr. Deeds to transfer something?
If you want to avoid probate, you may need that.
What's a Mr. Deeds?
It's not a Mr. Deeds.
Oh, okay.
We talked about this on the show already. But I'm going to remind everyone, there's something out there in Florida called the Ladybird deed.
Okay. Also a Mrs. Deed.
You could call it. I would not call it Mrs. Deed. I would call it a Ladybird deed, or a life estate deed, or a life enhancement deed. And basically, this deed will transfer your home upon your death to your beneficiary. Well, what is the beneficiary? The person you want to get that home. That person could be your son, your daughter, all your children.
So if there's like 5 people,
it could be all 5 people. If you want all 5 people you want all 5 people's names to be on the house after you die.
Okay.
You know, Ray them, Pookie them, you know, all of them. Everybody.
Wow.
But if you just have a will,
it's not going to be like the
it's
TV
going to be
show.
coming to the court. You're going to come into me and say, I want to sell Mama's house, and they told me I couldn't do nothing unless I had certain letters. Like, I know exactly what they're talking about. Let's go to court and get this home in your name.
What letters?
Letters of administration. These are letters that you get from the court authorizing you to do things on behalf of the estate. And how you get those letters is that we file a petition with the court, opening up the probate case, outlining to him some of the beneficiaries that are involved in the particular case, their percentage. If there's a will, we're going to send that to the court as well. Send a death certificate as well to the court, and if we're doing full administration, the court is going to give, when I say full administration, typically for estates worth over $75,000 or estates involving real property, we're going to do full administration, and then you're going to get something called letters of administration, which will allow you to do things on behalf of the estate while it's open. In probate, such as access to bank accounts, such as list the home for sale if that's what you want to do. You're not going to be able to close on that home until that the court signs an order finding that home to be homestead exempt. Meaning you lived in the home and it's not entitled
you lived
to
in the home. So homestead exempt means you lived in the home
prior to your death.
Right. Sound like you have a lot of experience doing this.
Yeah, we've been doing this for years now.
Wow.
But the way to avoid all of that is two ways.
How do you do that?
First way is the Ladybird deed.
Okay.
Second way
that's
is
for the house.
Yep. Or second is to put it in a trust.
Put it in a trust.
Yep.
Put it in a trust. And what's a trust? I hear a trust. Does that mean like I put my trust in you, and then you put your trust in me, and then I trust you because you're a lawyer? So that means that we have a trust.
Something similar.
So is that all it is?
What a trust is a legal document that attorneys
that
attorneys will draft, outlining what you want to happen to your assets upon your death. Okay, that is a trust, and so we will draft that document. Then you would take that trust document to the bank to open up a trust account, and then you will also transfer property or assets into the trust, whether it be through a deed to put it in there, or other assignment transfers to put those documents.
Wow, that is awesome, Sal. So it sounds like you get a trust, you have a trust, and you can trust the trust.
Talking about trust, we've got a gentleman that just walked into the program.
I'm gonna tie him in.
I wanted to tie him in.
No, you're on the hot seat today.
Okay,
because people need to know about the trust stuff because of the Queen's death.
Yes.
So she had everything in place, and now we're gonna move over to the other thing. Now there were other people now that weren't so happy. That they weren't as sad, I should say, that she passed away. They said that there's a lot of reparations and stuff that she needs to be paying back. It's interesting that I'm hearing this reparations, and Bishop came in right on time. We talking about some reparations. Now these are some of the island countries. Jamaica. I saw a program where this historian, the interviewer, the newsman said, "Are you sad that she passed?" He said, "No, I'm not sad. I'm sad for the family, what she's going through, but no, I'm not, because of how things were affected in the country of Jamaica, because there was colonialism, there was slavery, and now that they're trying to make a way or a path to reparations. Now I'll transition to the great honorable Bishop Bushner.
He owes you reparations.
I'm going to ask him, what is the reparation clause? Is there a biblical reparations?
Man, the only thing, again, goes back to blessing those because you have the power to do so. Proverbs 3:27, when it's in my power to give you something that you deserve or should have, I should not withhold it from you. That's Proverbs 3:27.
Proverbs.
Yeah, that's what the Bible says. So if I have the ability to give you something and not hold it back, in other words, I shouldn't stand in the way of your blessing. And that's what happens sometimes when people just passively sit by, even though she's the monarch and even though they say there was no involvement with the political aspect of the throne, but yet and still you can be complicit by your silence, by allowing something to happen over and over and over a year because your wealth is taken care of, your life is blessed. However, there's a lot of who live in abject poverty in England. I know a lot of people. In fact, I did something recently. I spoke on something in London on a Zoom.
All right, now.
I asked the question, are you all sad? And some of them said, sad.
Right.
Why would we be sad? Well, the issue is that how some people have been treated.
Yes,
and
yes.
Their emotions, basically. Really, how can we feel sad about someone who hurt so many people or who was passive in allowing so many people to live a life that could have been better had someone spoken up?
Now, I also saw the historian of Jamaica, which is near and dear to Sean's heart because he's got some Jamaican in him, and his wife's Jamaican. The historian also said that all these fields, these green fields that were they were raising sugar cane. I guess you gotta have the sugar cane before you get the sugar.
Correct.
Right. And so he said this was gold. He said all these this country, England, got rich from so when they pulled out, the reporter asked, when they pulled out, did you guys get anything from all the money that was given to England from the sugarcane crops? They said, nope, nothing, zero, nada. So, there was still a certain way.
How far back is this historian referring to?
He was talking about colonial times. He's still talking about, hey, maybe there's a path of reparations now, just like it is in America. And as a Jamaican lineage, Sean, yes,
of Jamaican lineage, yes.
Right.
I am of Jamaican lineage.
How do you feel about that?
About slavery?
Well, about the reparation part.
Well, also remember that Jamaica's been independent from England for over 50 years.
They still want some reparation.
Hey, listen,
you're on the spot now,
right? I don't know. I don't know how involved you want the Queen to be on that. I don't know what order she can sign to give you reparation. Because remember, right now, you have a young lady who's the Prime Minister of England. I think the pathway to reparations from the government of England is better made through her than through the monarch.
Yes.
So,
yes. And that's all. They just want to get that message out.
We'll get that off the chest.
Right.
So I just think it's important that we focus our energies on the proper and appropriate part.
Okay. Now I'm gonna pivot back to Doc here because you tap dancing a little bit. I like the way you dance though. You dance good. You got some moves.
Fred is still.
Don't co-sign what he's saying.
Not you. I'm just saying when he said tap dance. I thought about
Fred Astaire. Okay.
He's good. He's good.
Thank you.
So, even in America, we've been talking about some reparations, and there are some people that starting to get some. In California, there was in some states they're starting because it's states' rights. They're starting to rise up. There's some states that's trying to
Cities.
It's states, yeah, states,
Cities.
It got to be states too.
No, it doesn't. There's some municipalities who I've read have given something similar to what some might call reparations, but no states are giving reparations.
But
that's why Glenn puts at the beginning of the show the opinions and thoughts and views.
Right. Okay, but in those cities, where are these cities located?
Oh man,
in the state of California.
No, it wasn't.
Yes, it was in California. There is a beach residence area that they deem that they are giving money back to this community, a black community, because of the taking away of land. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. Fact check me.
I am.
Yes.
Bruce's Beach.
Yes, Bruce's Beach.
Governor Newsom signed a bill.
Oh, and governor is the what?
Returning Bruce's Beach to the black family.
And he's the governor of what state?
He's the governor of California.
All right. Sean, give it to me.
But if he's returning the property back to them, is that considered reparations, or would you give that a different name?
I would say whatever you
restitution.
Name it. Restitution. Yes, there
another
we go.
R.
So yeah, and so even now we've been talking about reparations, and like you said, reparations are appropriate, Pastor, when there has been a wrong done. I mean, they gave reparations to the Japanese when they interned them.
Yeah, I mean, when you like, for instance, Zacchaeus, after he went up in the tree and see Jesus, and once he came down and once his heart was changed, the first thing he said, whatever I've done, I'll return it. I'll give it back, his heart. And so when a person's heart is made right, I guess you want to make wrong right. You want to see if you can undo some of the things you've done. And when it's in your power, again, to do it, you ought to do it. But you ought to do it. You ought to make a statement. Shouldn't be just words. Actions should speak louder than words. So when you have the ability to make someone whole, and I guess that's what you do, first of all, when it comes to the legal aspect of the law. First of all, they got to be, when you go to the court, they got to be seen liable. Did you cause any damage? And once you've caused damage, then you got to be able to now be held responsible for any type of, the word may be what, now you owe them. Now you got to make them whole. That's it. Now you got to make them whole. So whenever you're in front of a judge, you bring in a cause, a plaintiff, you have a plaintiff and you have the defense. And if you can prove that you've been damaged, and then they award you, you win. Now, how do we make you whole?
Jesus makes me whole.
So Sean,
right, Bishop?
That's right. He does.
In court,
in the spiritual sense, he does. He makes us whole. So you don't want to be so heavenly minded, earthly good, because there are some things on the tangible side of earth. Because he said, occupy till I come. So in occupying till he comes, then there have to be some type of rules or regulations to play by while we're occupying till he comes.
Rules and regulations, things to play by. And we've already known that we haven't always played on a fair field.
Right.
It's been a little tilted
Well,
sometimes.
every time we get close to the goal line, sometimes they push it back.
All right, yes, we've kicked off football season. There we go. It's a good transition. That was a serious game last night. And speaking of the spiritual implication of the game, that was the Seattle Seahawks against the Denver Broncos at the last seconds of the game.
Time management.
Wow. They don't want to hear about this.
Yes, they do. It's a biblical.
Well, the same thing, like you said, with your life.
Implication.
We're in the last moments of Earth's history, as some believe. Apocalyptic literature points out in Revelation that we're living in the last days. So in the last moments of the game, you got to have proper time management. So what decisions should I be making about how I move the ball? How do I move my life? Where do I go from here? So time management is important.
And it seems like
the time.
Yes, it seemed like the coach had a little bit more faith. It was brought out. He had more faith in the kicker to kick it over 64 yards than the proven quarterback. Not saying that.
To get 5 yards.
To get 5 yards. Yeah. And the quarterback, he won Super Bowl winner. Not saying that. Not even bringing in the fact that the quarterback was a black gentleman and kicker was white.
Well, I think though, I think what he did,
I know I'm just, there's a lot of implications.
well, maybe the coach looked at the trend of the game and not the reputation of the player.
Okay.
Because the game, I don't know if they were moving the ball with fluidity. I don't know if they were moving like they could have been moving. And so when he saw that, he was like, I only got one decision to make. We're 5 yards out. How has the offense been playing? How have we been moving the ball opposed to let me try this kicker?
But how's that in the spiritual sense of our lives? God's going to always believe in us. You think instead of resourcing out.
But see, now with God, his calls are never based on what the past. It's always based on the future. See, that's the difference between the coach's call. The coach is based on the past, not based on the possibility of the future. And God can do that because he's omniscient, which means he already knows the conclusion. So his promises are designed to remind us, I know what you don't know, so I'm promising you something that will give you the enabling power to go through the process while you carry out the promise. So in other words, we basically live going through the process. And now I'm encouraging people, you got to engage the process because it's there for a reason. And so the word hope, that's what we're doing down in my church right now. Celebrating hope. I gave you that acronym.
Yes.
Helping other people evolve. That's the acronym for hope. So I got that hope is given to help other people evolve into realizing their possibilities.
So how do we do that? How would you help other people evolve?
First of all, be an example. Be contagious. You have to see it in you. Have you evolved? See, when he said make disciples, you got to be a disciple to make a disciple. You can't make somebody what you're not. So therefore, be the example. Be the model. Be it first. Be it. And then not now you be able to share your testimony. That's what the good book says. They overcame by the blood of the Lamb.
All right.
And by their testimony. Your testimony is what? I'm able to embrace this process. I'm doing the process. I'm not, and God doesn't give any exemption, not because of title, name, position. We all going through it, and you can do it because I'm doing it right now.
So what happens when we try to exempt ourselves of the process?
That's because entitlement.
You think entitlement.
You think, and that's what people do. That's what privilege is called. You know, when they say white privilege or police, whoever. Privilege is when you think you have entitlement not to engage like others because you feel a quality of being better than others. When last time I checked, we were made from the dust, and dust can be dark dust, black dust, white dust. It's all dust. And so for me, the common denominator, every human is actually equal because we're all dust. But we look at accomplishments, we look at money, wealth, and titles to decide the quality of who's better than who.
You know, it's interesting, going back to the Queen. She said that she felt her best in Scotland because there she could be herself. People didn't look at her. They even said she went out and she mingled with the people. When she was healthy in the summertime, she would go because it was a small setting. They didn't bother her. They didn't look at her as Your Majesty. They addressed her. They saw how she cherished her time, her privacy in that community, and they respected that. So it's, that's why she was so loved in that community. And that, that wasn't, Scotland is not, she's English, but that's a place that they claim, and, they're talking about breaking away and everything, but they respected her so much, and she claimed it because she can be herself. That means that we, before God, we can be ourselves. We can, he knows he sees the hope that can be evolved in us and how we can be a witness to others. What a legacy.
Absolutely. I mean, everybody want to be normal. Everybody want to be accepted. But, when, again, status begins to, in the minds of some, elevate you above the crowd. Basketball player, football player, the fame, they're carrying out a function in a form of sports and recreation and other eventful things. But then we want to give them, type of status because of what they accomplish. And then the platform, though, doesn't make them better. It just gives them a wider reach of touching people with the platform. And some people use it wisely and some don't. Some take their platform for the glory of God and some take it for self-aggrandizement. So all of us have a platform. All of us given a certain amount reach and a certain amount of actually influence.
When you talk about the reach and status, reminds me of Philippians 2:5. It says, I don't like this version. Let this mind be in you.
Yeah.
That was also in Christ Jesus.
Yeah.
Right. And when you look at Christ, like, he was the king.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Thought it not robbery.
But he thought it not robbery to what?
To be equal with God, because he was God. So he didn't think he was stealing anything from God, but he humbled himself and became obedient even to the cross.
Right. So here it is. I find it in the King James Version. Let this mind be in you, which was also in Christ Jesus, who being in the form of God thought it not robbery to be equal with God, but made himself of no reputation, and took upon him the form of a servant, and was made in the likeness of man, and being found in fashion as a man, he humbled himself and became obedient unto death, even the death of the cross. So when we're talking about the king, God is saying, have the mindset of the king. Have the mindset of the queen, because that's who you are, king and queens of God. But have the mind of Christ, which means what? Even though you are a king, even though you are a queen, don't think it robbery to make yourself a little lower, right?
Yes.
To be a servant, right?
Servant leadership.
If we're going to look at the biblical aspect, let's, what would we say? I mean, I think that's why a lot of people like Diana, because they saw in her a little bit of servanthood. They saw her with the people and amongst the people. And I think God is asking the same requirements of us, be among the people, be within the people, help them, serve them with your time, serve them with your resources, serve them with your money. And Jesus was so like God that he humbled himself all the way to the point of death, to where he died on the cross.
That's why community matters.
Because I think what happens is we want what the temptation is to be like the king and queen where people serve us. It's like, do you know who I am? Right? Open the door for me. I'm the king, I'm queen, I have money. Right? We don't look at, okay, well, let me serve somebody else. That's what all these blessings were given to you for. In fact, Abraham, God told him, I'm blessing you so that you can bless everybody. All the nations of the world will be blessed through you. But so that's why. And Paul was trying to be high and mighty, but God gave him a thorn in his flesh, the Bible says, to keep him humble.
Yeah, that's the thought I put up today, in fact, on Facebook. God works through us to meet the needs of those around us. So that Jesus said, I seek not my own glory, but the glory of him that sent me. So when you said, let this mind be in you, be in you, that was also in Christ Jesus. His mind was a mind of, it's not my will, but his will be done. So I'm not about what I want. What do he want? And that's why down on the cross was the ultimate of doing God's will. So sometimes God's will can lead you into death. It could lead you into self-sacrifice. It could lead you places you may not want to go.
Right. And that's the name of the show, is Community Matters. Right? When you look at Jesus, well, what mattered? The earth mattered. The earth mattered so much that he said, I need to go down there and die for them, even though I'm a king. And so the same thing is for us. Okay, what are we willing to die for? Right? What are we willing to give up our lives for? Right?
You got Brother Dex on the line.
Brother Dex, good afternoon. Brother Dex, how you doing this afternoon?
All is well. How you gentlemen doing up in there today?
Beautiful.
Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord.
What astounding and inspirational thought do you have to bring to us this afternoon?
Well, I was listening, when the Rev, she was speaking of overcoming and having overcoming testimony. But when it comes to a certain work and a certain word that God spoke as overcoming a certain thing that he did for the whole world. What is that one testimony that we all should have by which we overcome sin and death? There's only one. It's not many testimonies. We think there's many testimonies that we can testify. We all can testify to the greatness of God, man, and it's in. But there's only one testimony by which we overcome.
Mm-hmm.
And that's by the blood,
Yes.
specific, the blood of the Lamb, which is the same testimony that we should be all should have, testifying to the glory of God, because God testified of his Son. And this is the only testimony by which we overcome.
Thank you, Brother Deck. What have you say about what I heard Deck saying is that we overcome by the blood of the Lamb, right? Well, what is it that we overcome? Well, we've got to overcome that one thing, which is sin.
Well, even that, sin is the symptom. Overcoming our lack of faith in trusting the blood is the root problem for us. Because every human being who trusts the blood overcomes. Because he says, everyone that believeth, to them he gave power. John chapter 1, verse 14, where he says, those who believe he gave power. So overcoming your lack of belief in God that you can overcome is what we all must overcome. Because the symptoms, all the different array of symptoms coming through the prison, the light shines and it comes out in different colors, depends on personality proclivities. We all are born with certain leanings, certain things. Those are symptoms. But overcoming our lack of faith in God, as he mentioned, and believing in the blood is what we all got to overcome, everybody. And that's the biggest challenge of humility for a human being to accept the fact, I am not enough, and I don't have enough, and I need something in addition to what I already have, and that's the blood of Jesus.
Let's make that practical, because you made it sound so beautiful theoretically. Right?
Well, bottom line is I'm insufficient.
Right.
That's
We
it.
can't save ourselves.
We can't.
Well,
I'm insufficient. In other words, is what attracts God the most is brokenness, contrition, humility.
Humility.
And you have to acknowledge it. And sometimes circumstances have to squeeze it out of you. Tragedy has to break you down. Sometimes predicaments and circumstances have to unravel. But then again, sometimes the light comes on and you don't have to go through hell and high water. You don't have to go to the pig's pen. You wake up and smell the Postum P-roll coffee before it's too late. You know?
What am I tasting? Say that
So you got
again.
to smell the Postum coffee, P-roll, Roma.
Coffee, tea,
Hot
peppermint,
chocolate.
hot chocolate, whatever you got to smell to wake up. You know, people say wake up and smell, coffee. I'm saying wake up and smell whatever you got to smell, but wake up.
To get yourself right.
Wake up. And
Get
the
your
waking
act
up is,
right.
I am not enough. It's okay not to be okay. See, the problem
Yes.
with humanity, we have a problem with accepting our limitation and our brokenness. And out of our brokenness is our behavior. And so if we get fixed, our brokenness, your behavior will change. But until then, you'll never confess in what you don't address. See, you gotta address it so you can confess it. So,
Oh,
if you don't
write that down.
you don't address it. And some people live in blind spots in their life. That's why, again, community matters. It takes a decision to go, but it takes a community to grow.
Wow.
You got to
That's
address it
our new
before
tagline.
you confess it.
No.
And then you got a community to the community. What was that last one?
No, I'm saying is, for instance, when I say if you don't address it, you won't confess it.
Right. That's one.
And so that's number one. Number two, once you confess it, that's the goal. And the goal is a decision. But to grow, you need a community.
So say it like how you said it before.
He
It sounded
would've
nice
liked
better.
that. He-
Well, see, in other words,
the community.
No, don't say other words. Say the same way. Use
to
the
make,
same word.
you need a decision to go,
You need a decision to go.
but you need a community to grow.
Oh,
there
that
you
was
go.
it. That's what we wanted.
Yeah.
It takes a decision to go, but you need a community.
to grow.
You heard it here.
And we're going to reuse that.
That's our new tagline.
Yeah, for community matters.
Yeah.
Because when you live in by yourself, you believe in yourself.
That's
you believe
right.
in your stuff. You believe in your funk. You believe in everything you believe in. And the good book says there's a way that seems right to a man, the end thereof is death. However, in a community, you got other minded
Yes.
people
Like-minded.
who are looking at you.
Or even not like
And you
mine.
can, but they're bringing an assessment that's
Right.
honest and objective. And so I need a couple of people to tell me you're wrong.
Yep.
You're wrong. You're wrong.
Absolutely.
You're wrong. You're wrong. And now I'm hearing that. I need to begin to address that because now I'm hearing it, not just what I want to hear. Because your brain always going to gravitate to what you want to hear. That's positive about yourself.
So Doc, let me ask you a tough question, Bishop. You're here expounding these wonderful things, and You say it you have to be broken, right? Mm-hmm. Have you had any experiences in your life going back to it takes a decision to go and a community grow, where the community came and said, Bishop, I don't know about that, Bishop.
Yeah.
You know, where you listened to the community and said, all right, I know I'm a big pastor and I'm wise and spiritual thought, but I hear what you're saying and I'm going to follow through with it. Any I've done things like that. Testimony time.
Well, I brought, like, for instance, recently I brought a speaker to the church, and
mm-hmm.
I was addressed as I should have never brought the speaker.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact is, I accepted that, said, okay,
mm-hmm.
I understand, because the speaker wasn't of our denomination.
Mm-hmm.
And the person chided me by giving this person so much time to address us with information that he thought was wrong, but it was all biblical.
Mm-hmm.
But I received his information with an open heart.
I see.
Open heart.
But you still disagree with him, though.
Well, I don't have to disagree. I just got to turn on the light, and darkness will evaporate.
Ooh. Ooh.
I'm always trying to test him.
Can you imagine on the court, in a court?
You just got to turn on the light, and darkness will evaporate.
Yeah, why whenever Jesus was confronted, he didn't argue. He just told a parable. He just told a parable. Who is my neighbor? Okay, sit down.
You got time for a story?
Yeah. And then he would give a story. And then it would say, aha, he always hanging around publicans and sinners.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, somebody lost a coin, somebody lost a sheep, somebody's son went away.
Mm-hmm.
I come to get the lost. That's why I hang around them.
See, here's a decision. It takes a decision to go and a community to grow.
Right.
But a lot of times when we try to get the community involved, everybody got their own agendas. We all can't get on the same page. Mm-hmm. How do we get past that so the community can grow?
Well, you got to educate. It goes back to, again, Genesis 11. Remember when the Tower of Babel was being built?
Yes.
And the Lord comes down.
I wasn't there, but I read about it.
But you read about it. And what was God's commentary? He said, whatever they put
their minds to do, they will be able to do it.
Now, the question you have to ask,
what do we put in our minds?
What were the ingredients that caused the synergy of them to come together to do what they did? Now, they had 3 right, 1 was missing.
One purpose.
That purpose.
Right.
Communication.
Oh, yeah, communication.
And
vision.
And unity.
But they were missing the will of God.
Oh, Lord, have mercy.
Yes.
Because he said it will never rain again.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, whenever you don't trust God, you always end up going further than you have to, staying longer than you have to, doing more than you have to, wasting more resources than you have to, because you didn't take God at his word.
So do you believe in Genesis, if God had not intervened, they would have built the tower into heaven?
Well, the point was in heaven. The point was just that when the flood comes, they would be big enough not for a flood.
Right. And I mean,
that was the goal.
The tower wasn't the issue.
It was the direct defiance to thus said the Lord.
I mean, there's towers now that is reaching way up.
I don't think anyone would reach as far as.
But see, heaven wasn't the thing of reaching. It was just the front that they did.
Exactly.
We going to do
their
something.
Defiance.
And our religion is based on our self-doing, not trusting.
So the right formula is one purpose.
Yeah, they had it.
One communication. Yeah. What was the third one?
And unity.
Unity.
See, they said, "Come,
and the
let
will of
us,
God."
Right. Come. Let. They all had. The Bible starts off by saying they all had one language. After the Lord did what He did, now the devil took notes, and that's why we can't come together. Because what he does is he keep us from coming together through our inability to communicate.
Ooh.
So when organisms can't communicate, we can't come together. So he took notes. Very good. And now why we can never accomplish anything is the hiccup is we can never we can't find a purpose that's worthy of to stay with long enough, number one. We can't unify long enough, and then we can't communicate adequately enough, let alone do the will of God.
So how is best communication achieved?
The day of Pentecost, what did they do?
Pray.
They got together and they were honest. There can be no reconciliation unless truth is put on the table.
Truth.
I didn't read that in there. How they were honest?
Well, they came together.
I'm learning new text.
It said they came together on one accord.
On one accord.
Not a LX.
I thought it was a Honda.
How do you get one accord? You get one accord when you're able not to, in other words, they came to an understanding that we got issues.
Right, because they weren't on the same page.
They weren't at one time.
They didn't. They were all over the place.
No, they were. Prior to that, he said, "Y'all do me a favor. Stay there until Terry for a while, 10 days. Get together and let me send the Holy Ghost. And y'all got to do that. Y'all get together and y'all do that. Then I'm going to fulfill my promise."
Okay, hold up. So do you think Jesus dies? I mean, he dies, he stays, then he goes to heaven. He tells them go to the upper room.
Well, see, remember now, there's a timetable because he Passover and then Pentecost, 40 days,
right?
And then they need 10 more days.
50 days. 50 days.
So 50 days, something gonna happen.
Right. So do you think that they were in there, and John was like, Pete, this is my issue with you, Peter. You always trying to be up front. You always trying to do this. I got a problem with you, Pete. That's why you denied him 3 times, because you just you too up front. You think Thomas, somebody came at Thomas, Matthew came to Thomas like, listen, Matt, you didn't even like me because I was a tax collector. You probably still got issues with me, and you over there doubting all the time. Why are you worried about me and my tax collecting and you doubting? You think that's the kind of conversation?
Well, they had
was
10 days.
Whatever
10
the
days they were
issues
together.
were.
You don't stay with somebody 10 days without doing something.
So you think they put it on the table?
They had camp meeting.
Yeah.
So camp meetings, 10-day camp meeting. When you have, why do we have 10-day camp meetings? It's supposed to be of us coming together, coming away with a unity. We come away sometimes still fractured.
Yeah.
Because we missed the reason why we came together.
But do people agree that they may go in there like, I don't want to come together. I just want to come in and tell you all.
What's the purpose, though? In other words, if you don't have an outcome in mind, why are we doing what we're doing? Why are we doing what we're doing? I mean, why you work? What's your outcome? Just make money? What's your outcome? I mean, what is it, the end game? After it's all said and done, why you go to the gym? Why you wake up this morning?
Yeah.
Why did you eat the food you ate? Why are you married? What do you say? You do the things you do for your spouse because you have an end game. We want to be together on the same page.
Right.
So without a vision, people perish. So in other words, without an intended outcome, you left exposed to anything that comes along. So
without an intended outcome, you're exposed to anything.
That was about in the Hebrew when it says without a vision, and a vision is a snapshot of your preferred future. That's all a vision is, how it looks. So once I have that, then now I need to make decisions towards that. Anything less than that, I'm not honest and loyal to myself. So okay, now when I know the vision, now it's going to be intentional about what decisions I can and cannot make.
So it's very important to reevaluate and reestablish our goals and visions in our job, in our work life, in our home life, even with our kids and spouses, so that we can improve.
Yeah, think about it. If a company has a mission statement and it has a vision statement, then every family ought to have one. Every company ought to have one. In other words, a vision statement is the picture of the portrait. The frame is the mission of how you're going to get there.
Say that. You got to repeat that. Rewind.
You need to start
say the
recording on
same
your
thing,
phone.
though. Say it's the same. Don't use different words, the same
when
words.
you look at a picture, you see the vision. The frame around it is the mission statement to make the picture come to life.
So we got the vision and the mission statement.
So the vision is what we're going to look like if we do what we say we're going to do, which is your mission statement.
And I always like GE when they said, we bring good things to light. I've always remembered that. As long as I can, it's like
that's Genesis 1. That's Genesis 1 right there.
Yeah. Well, see, in other words,
their mission statement, everything was just right there.
In the beginning, God said, "Let there be
light,"
and He looked at the light and He called it
good.
We bring
good
things
to light.
Yeah. And so even your marriage, okay, our marriage exists to bring hope and joy to those around us.
No, it's to be fruitful and multiply.
Yeah, that's what he told them. That too. That's inclusive. That you ought to do, not leaving the other undone. Even if you practice. I know you just keep the recipe, maybe take out some ingredients so that you don't get the intended or unintended results. So.
Right.
But keep practicing.
You got to keep practicing.
Practice make perfect.
Practice make perfect. I haven't perfected it yet.
It don't want to.
No.
You perfected it if you go away happy.
Yes. Amen.
But if somebody feel like they've been shortchanged, go back.
Go back at it again.
They say when you fail, try again.
Try again. Try. So that dives off into a whole different subject about how often, should you practice, and suppose some people don't want to practice.
Well, don't stay away the Bible says don't stay away long enough where the devil tempt you.
Right.
That's right.
So stay away, but just not long.
Not long enough for the devil to tempt you. So you can always say, baby, I feel tempted.
Oh, that's it. You hear that, Glenn? Glenn ain't listening.
Lead me not into temptation.
Yes, Jesus. So those are the magic words right there. I'm feeling tempted. I'm feeling tempted today.
That's right.
And lead us not into temptation.
And then she's gonna say, well, come and let me bless you.
Yes. Okay. Is this
Okay.
what show is what is this show
community
rated?
matters.
Yeah.
We want the community to stay together.
Right. We want to multiply the community.
That's right.
Oh man, so now I forgot what we were talking about before.
We're
that.
talking about goals,
talk-
mission statements.
Oh, the family. Yes,
Family.
the family being
Sean started kind of like thinking about going home. That's what he started.
pretty much. Pretty much. My wife was just calling me too, so But you're saying your home should be your
Yeah, in other words, your home is a satellite. See, our company, our community is a reflection of our homes. See, homes are the place where we can make the community what it is. But but when you got homes that are broken and fragmented, then it's almost like your body is only as strong as your weakest cells. When your cells are right, you're right. And your organs and your tissues and your body organs and systems. So the community is a reflection, or it's a bigger, I guess, the macro of the micro of the families.
So, and there's nothing wrong if you're going through some home issues.
True.
Just means
You will go through home issues.
You will through.
Oh, it's your ability to get through issues that we call conflict, and conflict is normal, natural, and neutral because you're different people.
Right, and I like what you said before. It brings me back to what you said before about being honest and putting it on the table to acknowledge that there is something going on.
Yeah.
You can't address it.
Yeah. Well, see, what happens is, for instance, in marriages, people don't see. The Myron Rush in his book, Hope for Hurting Relationships, he says relationships go through these stages unnecessarily because of the lack of honesty and transparency. He said all relationships, for instance, start off with cooperation, and then when you're not honest, you move to retaliation. See, and retaliation leads to domination and then isolation, where you have couples together physically, but they're isolated because they no longer want to endure the pain of being dominated, which comes from you retaliated on me, so now I'm going to try to get the upper hand, and now it's a war opposed to being a compliment. Why are you in something that's not blessing you, and what can you do to fix it? That's the unfortunate thing about humanity. Why are we in broken relationships and we stay uncomfortable, and we stay comfortable being uncomfortable? And we got so many tools, and a lot of times crises come because of the lack of tools, and that's when you need just some information, because most people, They got good sense, but their software is contaminated with wrong programming. And the hardware is pretty good. Your brain, most people don't have a brain deficit where they got problems with the gray matter in the brain. It's the software. Somebody been telling you wrong.
Yes.
And you've been believing it. And that's why G. Carter Woodson in his book, Miseducation of the Negro, you told a lie long enough, you're going to believe it. And as a man thinketh, so is he. So it goes back to, as you mentioned earlier, how do we get there? Learning, teaching, and then leadership has to be responsible for creating a culture, and a culture is defined by what you allow, what you permit, what you promote, and what you fight for. So everybody got a culture. Everybody got one. But if I'm allowing people to be abused and misused, if I'm allowing this to happen, I'm allowing through passivity.
I
don't endorse
passivity.
it, but I just turn my head and act like it's not there. Well, you are aiding and abetting, and the Bible says, even those who do such things, if you have pleasure in them that do it, you're gonna be held accountable. So even though I might not be
engaging
the one doing
in it
it
myself,
but by my passivity, because I'm not standing up with righteous indignation. See, something ought to rise up when wrong is done.
Yes.
See, righteous indignation is a statement about the righteousness that's in you that won't allow or tolerate something being done that's abusive to anybody. And that's what Jesus did. When he went in the temple, for instance, he went off with the whip, because he saw what they were doing. They were making worship difficult. That's what they were doing. The selling, there's nothing wrong with selling in the church. Like, for instance, you're an author, you write a book, and you come and you bring your book in the foyer. People say, well, you shouldn't be. No, that's not what he was doing. They were taking animals.
Oh, yeah.
And they were exchanging them, pronouncing curses on one and then blessings on others, and then reselling them, making worship, making getting to God difficult, standing in the way of their maker.
Wow, this has been so deep, so much, in so little time. We got to have a part 2.
I've been blessed.
Yes, I've been blessed too.
I've been
Did you
blessed.
write down all them sayings?
No, I
And
recorded
quotes?
it. I recorded it.
Oh, yeah, we
And it's
recorded.
going to be sent back to me. To my
That's my blessing.
Yeah.
Great to be here. Love you guys.
Again, this has been
Love you too.
Community Matters on WOKB 1680, your urban empowerment inspiration station. I'm the attorney, Sean Smith, along with my brother from another mother.
Dan Smith, and we learned that a will is not a way to avoid probate. We learned about estate to avoid probate.
You got to educate to avoid probate.
But we learned about the estate.
Yeah. And we're going to see you again next week, Tuesday, 12 o'clock, same time, same channel. Peace.
All right.
Jesus, to walk with me. I want Jesus to walk with me. All along this pilgrim's journey.
Community Matters is every Tuesday at 12 o'clock here on Inspiration 1680 and FM 100.7.